One man who will not be in the main event of WrestleMania this year is Dean Ambrose. I posted a Sound Off extra on the Ambrose situation the day that The Torch broke the news on Tuesday. So if you missed it, I did almost half an hour on it. I would go back and check it out. Wade Keller of the Pro Wrestling Torch broke the story that Dean Ambrose has informed WWE officials that he will not be signing a new deal when his current contract expires in April. He will be leaving the company. I had the pleasure, by the way, of being back on Keller's podcast that same night. So talk about great timing. We did get to talk about the Ambrose stuff at the end of the show. WWE was quick, not too long after the story broke on the Torch, WWE was quick to confirm the news, issuing a statement. I guess it just blew up, and they felt they had to address it. And they put a statement out saying as follows: Dean Ambrose, real name Jonathan Good, will not be renewing his contract with WWE when it expires in April. We are grateful and appreciative of all that Dean has given to WWE and our fans. We wish him well and hope that one day Dean will return to WWE. Dave Meltzer added in this week's Observer that Ambrose turned down a 5-year deal with a downside guarantee of just over $1 million per year. So this has caused a lot of people to scream, work, 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 work. Because WWE, they say, does not normally issue a statement like that. They thought the language was kind of weird, and the fact that they would even announce such a thing so far in advance, instead of trying to negotiate further with him and trying to lock him down and change his mind. And it got people wondering, well, that's a little suspect. And maybe it's just one big, elaborate work. This is professional wrestling. The only industry where you can literally see something with your own 2 eyes and still call it a work. Somebody could punch another person in the face, and we can sit around having a discussion about whether or not it was a worked punch. You know, there's an old expression, believe nothing you hear and only half of what you see. So, I get it. You have a right to be skeptical. I cannot sit here right now and tell you, I cannot sit here and guarantee you that it isn't just a creative way for them to give Ambrose something to do for WrestleMania. I can only tell you, well, first of all, look who we're dealing with here. This is not exactly the most creative bunch. That's number one. But I can only tell you that I do not believe this is a work. I believe they will use it for storyline purposes on TV. But I do not believe that this is a work. You know, first of all, as far as Keller goes, I believe in his reporting. Other sites have since stepped up to back up the report. WWE is making moves that would certainly lead one to believe that they're nervous. They are very nervous right now about losing talent to other companies. Mike Johnson of PW Insider said that there was a lot of activity backstage at Smackdown on Tuesday. That was the same day the Ambrose story broke. WWE executives backstage that night were meeting with different talents whose contracts are up in the next 12 to 18 months or so, trying to lock them into new long-term deals. I thought Bully Ray on Busted Open Radio had it right when he said the same thing that I think a lot of us are thinking. He read the same report from Mike Johnson and said, why would WWE be trying to sign everybody all of a sudden, all at once, to long-term contracts? What would move them? What would possess them to suddenly meet with all of these talents to try to lock them in if they weren't nervous about All Elite Wrestling and maybe Ring of Honor, trying to sign these guys away? Everyone's talking about AEW. Nobody's talking about the fact that Ring of Honor is throwing around some bucks themselves. Don't forget, Ring of Honor is owned by a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Just because they don't put $1 billion budget behind ROH doesn't mean that they don't have the money to throw around if there's somebody that they really want. People seem to forget that fact. They don't talk about ROH as much, but you cannot discount them from the conversation. It's pretty obvious to me that WWE is nervous, and they have every right to be. If a guy like Dean Ambrose, who's been positioned as a top guy in the company in the past, now is suddenly going to be free to show up as he chooses at that first AEW show in May? You don't think they're going to want to load that show up? You don't think they're going to want to have a surprise or two up their sleeve? Launch with a bang at that show, Memorial Day weekend? If Ambrose sticks to his beliefs and stands his ground and doesn't re-sign, as of May, he'll be a free man. There's no clause, there's no non-compete. When your deal expires, you're free as a bird to fly wherever you want to go. There's nothing stopping him if he wanted to. If they let you go early from your contract, that's different. You're probably bound by a 90-day non-compete. As far as anybody knows, that's not the case with Ambrose. And he's a guy that WWE has spent years devoting television time to. They've spent years promoting, especially as a member of the Shield. Who knows? Maybe he'll pull a CM Punk and he'll just disappear for a while. Maybe he'll take a year off. Take his time to figure out what his next move is going to be. But for all the people who think, Vince McMahon isn't paying attention to any of this, you're not giving the man enough credit. He may be out of touch. He may be 70-something years old. His jaw may crack when he chews, but he is very protective of his company. He's no dummy. He knows what's going on. We knew that from the stories that Chris Jericho told about all the conversations he had and the text messages that went back and forth between he and Vince after he told Vince that he was working with New Japan. At first, Vince was supportive. When Jericho showed up as a surprise on that New Year Dash show after Wrestle Kingdom last year, what was Vince's response? Why did you do that show? I thought you only had a one-match deal with them. Or when Vince wanted Jericho to be in the casket match with The Undertaker at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Rusev was in, but then Jericho agreed. And they announced the match, Undertaker versus Chris Jericho. Then Jericho told Vince about the New Japan deal. And 3 hours later, he got a text message saying, the match was off. We're gonna go back to Rusev. The Saudi prince wanted Rusev against The Undertaker. That's what he says Vince told him. Right, sure. Yeah, but these things don't matter to Vince McMahon, right? He doesn't pay any attention to this stuff, right? Sure. He's losing face here. This is what people don't understand. He's losing face. The more that these types of stories come out, he's losing face. It's less a matter of him being afraid of Cody and all of Cody's friends. It's more a matter of saving face. All these stories about unhappy talent and wrestlers asking for their releases, Dean Ambrose leaving the company. Look, it may only be in the grand scheme of things. They have a lot of talent under contract. We're probably talking about a very small number, a very small percentage of people. But the perception is that there's some kind of mass exodus happening of guys wanting to leave WWE. That's not something the company wants to have. So you can mock the whole AEW effect all you want to. And how, they haven't even run a show yet. Yeah, they haven't. What does that tell you? That this is happening at a time when this company has not even run a single show. Now imagine when they do. If it's a success, imagine when they announce a TV deal. This has way more to do with saving face and not losing talent to the new guys, because that would be super embarrassing for WWE. Every story about how this person turned down a big money deal wasn't about the money. They turned down big money. They're thinking about signing with AEW. Every story that we hear like that is extremely embarrassing for Vince McMahon. It's all about appearances. If it looks like the new lady in the beauty pageant is prettier than you, that's not going to sit well with you. They cannot afford to have it seem like something is wrong, that suddenly everybody is heading for the exits.